In the small town of Borden, Indiana, among the modest buildings and homes of its citizens, is an unusual building. It's something that stands out, with its classical design and carved limestone accents. It's the Borden Museum, completed in 1900. According to writer William E. Wilson, that saw the museum in its prime, the museum contained one of the most valuable and rare collections in the state of Indiana. In its time, it was nationally famous and visited by scholars and scientists from across the United States, including the Smithsonian Institute. But after the museum closed, this amazing collection of priceless Victorian-era curiosities vanished. While we know where some of it went, the rest is unclear. But what exactly was in this collection so special that people traveled across the country to a tiny Indiana town? And more importantly, where did it go? This is the Borden Museum Mystery. The Borden Museum was the creation of one remarkable man, William Borden, that was born at New Providence, Indiana in 1823. He developed an interest in fossils and geology at an early age, and this fascination followed him the rest of his life. He was a well-educated man, spending 3 years at Washington County Seminary at Salem, Indiana. He then attended Indiana College, that would later be called Indiana University. After joining his brother John at Leadville, Colorado, they struck it rich at the silver mines. It made him incredibly wealthy, a millionaire. In fact, he was the wealthiest person in Clark County. He had a beautiful home, a mansion on the hill. It was actually the last of many extraordinary things he built in his hometown. The wealth he had allowed him to pursue his many unusual interests without worry about the cost. With his own money, he created a college for teachers in 1884. It was called the Borden Institute. He made education affordable to poor families in rural Indiana and developed unique ways for students to learn. There were no exams or study halls. Students learned by immersion and hands-on experience. The school had an excellent laboratory to conduct scientific experiments. And as part of the hands-on curriculum, Mr. Borden created what was called the Geological Cabinet, in which he displayed a lifelong collection of curiosities. Its size was referred to as Mammoth. The collection became so large that he built a standalone museum in 1900 on the corner of East Main Street in what's now known as Borden Ridge Drive. He filled the museum with artifacts from his many expeditions and excavations throughout Indiana. He also brought in items from across the world and even purchased entire collections. There were swords and firearms from the American Revolution to the Civil War, and a valuable coin collection assumed to be from the ancient world. He also acquired rare manuscripts and books. But the fossil and prehistoric artifacts were said to be the true highlights. Nothing about the collection was trivial. More than just an educated millionaire, William Borden was a respected professor and geologist, and contributed a great deal to Indiana's early surveys, particularly those of southeast Indiana. The collection he assembled was definitely not like those of P.T. Barnum and other sensationalists. Representatives of the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. visited the museum, and there was an active correspondence between they and Mr. Borden. He was also good friends with the Chicago Field Museum president, whom greatly admired his collection. William Borden was very well respected, a philanthropist that gave to many worthy causes in Clark County and elsewhere. In fact, he was so respected that the town where he'd grown up, once called New Providence, was renamed Borden in his honor. When William Borden died in 1906, at 83 years old, there was no great leader to take his place. What would become of the Borden Institute and Borden Museum without him? The Institute was closed in that same year and later became the Borden High School. The school was used until 1955, when a bigger one was built. Sadly, by 1993, the former Borden Institute was demolished. It had fallen into such disrepair that it was considered unsafe. It was the end of a great history and one man's vision of a better way to learn. His mansion on the hill still stands, overlooking the town renamed after him, and his grand museum of curiosities. The museum was also closed in 1906. It was open a mere 6 years. William had built the museum up against the tavern that his mother ran from 1824 to 1851. Built in 1819, William included it as part of the museum as a memorial to his parents. His father, John Borden, founded the town in 1816, the same year that Indiana became a state. He called the town New Providence, after Providence, Rhode Island, his hometown. Stepping inside the tavern, we see where a young William Borden worked with his mother after his father passed away. His mother encouraged his reading and education, perhaps more so than the early schools of the day. Looking around this classic Victorian-era building conjures up all kinds of wonder as to its contents. This was built in a time when the wealthy collected mummies and other relics from the ancient world as conversation pieces. There were no laws banning export of antiquities or pillaging prehistoric sites in America. It was simply considered a hobby. What were the things inside this museum or its basement, brought here by a man of immense wealth and resources? A man that could afford to bring the best of the best artifacts, from around the world. Today, the Borden Museum first floor collection has been replaced by tables and chairs and functions as a community event center. A painting of William Borden adorns the museum. As well as a sculpture. You can see artifacts from the Borden Institute and when it was later used as a high school. A second level gracefully hovers above, with some tantalizing clues of the past collection. At the bottom of the stairs, you're greeted by fine woodwork that was created over 120 years ago. The top floor reveals a grand curio original to the museum. It does not contain artifacts of Dr. Borden's time. However, it does contain some of the fine books he supplied for the Borden Institute that was founded in 1884. Some of these may be about 140 years old. The museum is absolutely stunning, a time capsule, almost exactly as it was in 1900. To the right of each window is a chain that used to operate solid window covers outside. You can see them partially lowered in this photo. The museum was built to be hurricane-proof, and why not? It held the most valuable collection in the state of Indiana. After the museum was opened to the public, William E. Wilson wrote, "It was fireproof and is equipped with steel doors and window guards, and has the safety of a bank vault." You can still find impressive mineral and fossil displays on the second floor. Standing in the corner, and with a little imagination, you can visualize what it was like in 1900. Leaving the second floor behind, you make your way down to a very old and intriguing basement. The only way to open the door and find any clues to the past is with an over 120-year-old skeleton key. The ceiling is constructed of solid brick, an unusual design you'd not expect. It looks more like a tomb than a museum basement. But whatever was here, be it a mastodon skull, mummy, or ancient relics of a forgotten people, everything is gone. We can only imagine the curiosities that captivated scholars to visit a museum in the middle of the southern Indiana countryside and far away from the big city. Or can we? It's known that some Borden Museum items went to different Indiana institutions, such as universities. However, the largest mineral, fossil, and prehistory repository in Indiana was located at Indianapolis. It was inside the Indiana State Capitol building from 1862 to 1967. This would be a very likely place for some of the Borden collection. Starting as a small museum upstairs, it would later take up the basement. Eventually, the large collection would be called the Indiana State Museum and have its own building. We know that many items were donated to the Chicago Field Museum and was considered a very valuable collection. Items can be found in its catalog today as the Borden Collection of Indiana, or simply Borden Collection. William Borden had been friends with Edward E. Ayer, the Field Museum president, and that's likely why many items went there. You can view online pictures of at least 135 unique specimens. We know that William also had close ties and communications with the Smithsonian. In his lifetime, it's known that he gave them important artifacts. But strangely, a search for William Borden and any of his artifacts is not found in the Smithsonian catalog, and there may be a good reason. Samuel Langley was the Smithsonian secretary from 1887 to 1906 and was known for being introverted and rigid. But more importantly, he was well known for suppressing anything he considered controversial. William Borden had participated in a geological survey of what's now known as Rose Island at Charlestown, Indiana. He and lead geologist E.T. Cox described ancient stone walls and fortifications that resembled European masonry. It was, in their opinion, the ruins of a castle. People also found unexplained artifacts, such as Roman coins. An ancient shield, and even stone with ancient writing. It would all indicate European settlement in America well before Christopher Columbus by at least 300 years. All of these artifacts were considered very controversial, as it went against the established historical narrative. It's unclear what William Borden found and sent to Washington. But if any of it was controversial, in Samuel Langley's opinion, it may have never been on display or officially recognized in the Smithsonian catalog. When we stand in front of the Borden Museum, it's easy to admire William Borden and his passion. Instead of moving to a big city where he could have enjoyed more fame and shared his collection with more people. He stayed here, where he grew up. He gave back to his community and helped countless people along the way. Once upon a time, the museum he created was the best of the best. It was something truly remarkable, something that, for a short time, put a small town in Indiana on the world stage. Only in our imagination can we see everything that was once here, that was so curious that great minds from across the country came to see it. The Borden Museum, whose curiosities may always be a mystery.